On the evening of February 28, 2026, the modern skyline of Doha stands peacefully against the dusk, unaware of the approaching storm. Deep in the Qatari desert, Patriot missile batteries wait in the fading twilight as the entire Persian Gulf braces for unprecedented military escalation. At Udeid Air Base, massive radar dishes spin methodically, their operators suddenly detecting a flurry of highly unusual electronic signals across the water. Base commanders watch the tarmac in tense anticipation as ground crews rush to fuel F-15 fighter jets for a sudden, unscheduled alert scramble. The reality of the threat sets in as early warning satellites confirm multiple missile launches, signaling that the peaceful night sky is now a battlefield. Coastal defense positions along the eastern seaboard shift to high alert as armored vehicles take up strategic overwatch in the gathering shadows. Inside, dock and command centers, radar operators lock their eyes onto glowing green screens, watching for the first physical signs of the incoming strike. The Combined Air Operations Center hums with quiet intensity as dozens of Allied military personnel analyze the rapidly evolving tactical situation. Digital maps illuminate the room, revealing that the entire airspace over the Persian Gulf has been abruptly cleared of all commercial aviation. Under the pale light of a crescent moon, armored military convoys slowly navigate the desert floor to reinforce critical infrastructure perimeters. Rows of THAAD interceptor tubes reflect the cold blue light of the base, their internal guidance systems syncing with orbital tracking satellites. Hundreds of miles away in the dark and desolate deserts of southern Iran, a heavy and silent tension precedes the opening salvo. Without warning, the pitch-black desert landscape is violently illuminated by a blinding flash of orange fire erupting from a concealed subterranean silo. Massive solid rocket boosters ignite with a deafening roar, kicking up thick clouds of desert sand as the first weapon leaves the ground. A sleek ballistic missile ascends on a towering pillar of bright yellow fire, tearing through the atmosphere toward the Arabian Peninsula. Multiple launch sites light up the Iranian desert simultaneously, sending a synchronized wave of destructive kinetic energy into the upper stratosphere. Glowing exhaust plumes streak upward through low-hanging clouds, painting a terrifying picture of the sheer volume of the unfolding attack. From rocky, uneven terrain, mobile launchers catapult a second wave of rockets, ensuring the bombardment will arrive in overwhelming, staggered waves. Hidden launch rails activate in the darkness, catapulting swarms of delta-wing attack drones into the night to fly beneath traditional radar coverage. Dozens of these attack drones form a deadly coordinated swarm, their dark silhouettes blending perfectly against the moonlit ocean sky. Skimming dangerously close to the turbulent waves of the Persian Gulf, the drone swarm begins its long, methodical journey toward Qatari infrastructure. Back in Qatar, tactical radar screens suddenly flash a brilliant warning red as multiple hostile ballistic trajectories populate the primary display. Harsh red warning lights bathe the command center operators in an ominous glow as they initiate the theater-wide air defense protocols. Fighter pilots in full flight gear sprint across the illuminated tarmac, racing against the clock to get their interceptors airborne. Cockpit screens flicker to life as pilots slam their canopies shut, locking themselves into the high-tech environments of their F-15 Strike Eagles. Dual jet engines ignite with massive bursts of blue and orange afterburner flames, shaking the ground with raw, unbridled power. Roaring down the runway, the first F-15 lifts off into the pitch-black sky, authorized to engage any hostile targets over the water. A squadron of Qatari Rafale fighter jets launches in rapid succession, leaving bright trails of glowing exhaust as they join the hunt. Pulling back hard on the stick, pilots climb vertically into the night sky to position themselves between the incoming threats and the cities below. Glowing green heads-up displays project crucial targeting data over the dark horizon, turning the empty sky into a digital hunting ground. Warning sirens begin to echo through the quiet, empty streets of Doha as citizens shelter indoors and look up at the dark sky. In the surrounding desert, Patriot missile canister covers blow off in a sudden shower of sparks and highly pressurized white smoke. With a blinding flash of rocket fire, the first Patriot interceptor missile erupts from its launcher to meet the incoming ballistic threat. The intense bright streak of the interceptor climbs at Mach 4 over the city, leaving a thick trail of white smoke in its wake. Multiple interceptors launch simultaneously from the outskirts of Doha, creating towering columns of fire that illuminate the sprawling urban landscape. High in the stratosphere, a massive and silent explosion blooms like an artificial sun as a ballistic missile is successfully destroyed in space. Down on the ground, a brilliant white flash illuminates the edges of passing clouds, followed seconds later by a deep, rolling thunder. The entire Doha skyline is bathed in the eerie, momentary glow of high-altitude missile interceptions happening miles above the city center. Banking hard over the Persian Gulf, fighter jets reflect the moonlight off their metallic wings as they acquire the low-flying drone swarms. An air-to-air missile detaches from a fighter's wing, its rocket motor instantly igniting with a fierce blast of directional flame. The missile streaks across the dark ocean at supersonic speeds, guided perfectly by the jet's advanced onboard targeting computers. A spectacular mid-air explosion erupts over the water as the drone is annihilated, raining fiery sparks safely into the cold sea. Out in the Gulf, naval warships activate their massive radar arrays, spinning rapidly under the tactical glow of red deck lights. Vertical launch system cells burst open on the decks of destroyers, sending defensive missiles shooting straight up into the dark atmosphere. Cutting through the dark ocean waves, the naval fleet launches consecutive interceptors that leave bright white smoke trails lingering in the air. Phalanx close-in weapon systems rapidly swivel and lock on, preparing to unleash a wall of depleted uranium rounds against any leaks in the defense. Command Center digital maps show a terrifying new reality as dozens of hostile drone icons converge on the critical Qatari coastline. The massive Ras Laffan industrial complex stands in the crosshairs, its towering gas flares burning brightly against the dark night sky. Automated defense systems spin up on the desert dunes surrounding the energy hub, bathed in the glow of nearby industrial floodlights. Unleashing a staggering rate of fire, the defense systems pump a solid stream of bright red tracer rounds into the night sky. This impenetrable wall of kinetic tracer fire creates a glowing, localized shield to protect the vital power plants from aerial strikes. An incoming Delta Wing drone flies directly into the barrage of red tracer fire, instantly disintegrating into a harmless, scattered fireball. The night sky over Udeid Air Base is now fully crisscrossed with glowing missile trails and the brilliant flashes of distant interceptions. Massive THAAD radar stations vibrate slightly from the concussive shock waves of the ongoing multi-layered aerial battles above. A THAAD interceptor launches with a deafening blast, illuminating the surrounding sand dunes in stark white light as it hunts high-altitude killers. Above the cloud deck, multiple ballistic missiles glow red-hot from atmospheric friction as they begin their terminal dive toward the surface. Kinetic kill vehicles maneuver perfectly in the upper atmosphere, colliding with the glowing warheads at thousands of miles per hour. Expanding orange fireballs fill the sky above Doha as the incredible kinetic energy of the interceptions vaporizes the incoming threats. Harmless red-hot missile shrapnel falls like fiery rain into the empty desert sands, safely away from any populated areas. Royal Air Force Typhoon fighter jets aggressively roll through the dark sky, using their advanced sensors to lock onto a new wave of drones. Pilots watch through their cockpit canopies as multiple glowing explosions detonate in the airspace dead ahead, confirming successful kills. Flying dangerously low over the Persian Gulf, F-15s push their afterburners to the limit, reflecting intensely on the water's surface below. Inside the command center, military personnel work at maximum speed as tactical screens continuously update with newly verified interceptions. The Persian Gulf coastline remains heavily defended by armored military vehicles and scanning searchlights piercing the thick darkness. Air defense operators look through high-tech night vision binoculars, tracking the chaotic, glowing battles raging in the sky above them. Another massive wave of Patriot missiles launches from a hidden desert base, creating an overlapping web of defensive smoke trails. The night sky resembles a chaotic, high-tech light show of white smoke trails, red tracers, and brilliant orange explosions. Fighter jets fly straight through the dissipating smoke and glowing embers of recently destroyed drones, relentless in their defensive patrols. Massive military transport aircraft remain safely grounded on the tarmac as interceptor missiles tirelessly defend the airspace high overhead. Command center directors calmly orchestrate the incredibly complex defense matrix through headsets, their faces illuminated by tactical maps. Advanced surface-to-air missile batteries rapidly rotate their massive launch tubes to acquire a fresh set of incoming targets. The desert terrain briefly lights up as bright as daylight as multiple interceptor systems fire in perfect automated synchronization. Hypersonic interceptor missiles leave brilliant, thick trails of exhaust as they chase down the fastest ballistic targets in the atmosphere. Wreckage of destroyed drones falls gracefully into the dark waves of the ocean, safely neutralized before reaching the coastline. Naval cruisers unleash torrents of automated gunfire from their decks, cutting through the heavy night fog to protect the maritime borders. The Doha skyline remains completely untouched and serene, shielded from the chaotic flashes of war raging in the stratosphere above. Jet targeting pod cameras display grainy thermal feeds of hostile drones being blown to pieces by highly accurate air-to-air missiles. Qatari Rafale jets pull high G turns in the upper atmosphere, their wingtips generating glowing streaks of condensation in the cold air. Military air traffic control towers bathed in green light successfully coordinate the incredibly complex airspace filled with friendly fighter jets. Heavy military trucks transport reserve interceptor missiles across fortified bases under the cover of darkness to reload the spent batteries. From high altitude, brief flashes of lightning-like explosions from the battle below illuminate the top of the cloud layers. Fighter jets dive aggressively to evade the massive chunks of debris falling from the higher altitude ballistic interceptions. Thick smoke clears around a Patriot missile launching tube, revealing an empty blackened canister that has done its job. Massive air bases remain illuminated by floodlights and completely operational, while interceptor streaks continuously decorate the sky above. Radar operators' hands rapidly type critical commands on illuminated military keyboards, maintaining the digital lock on incoming threats. The main orbital map in the command center shows a promising shift as the cluster of red hostile icons slowly begins to diminish in number. Automated defense systems finally cease fire, their glowing barrels smoking heavily in the cool night air after repelling the drone swarm. Roaring engines cause the ground to shake as an F-15 flies directly over a coastal base to intercept a straggling threat. The intense orange flash of an air-to-air missile intercepting a target in the distance reflects brightly off the pilot's visor. Over the horizon of the Persian Gulf, the distant fading flashes mark the final drone intercepts of the massive coordinated assault. The night sky slowly transitions to a deep pre-dawn purple, heavily scarred with the crisscrossing white contrails of the battle. Military convoys arrive at a massive crater in the remote desert, inspecting the blackened debris of a missile that slipped through the net. Despite the shield, some infrastructure took glancing hits, with emergency crews now extinguishing fires at an isolated power substation. The rising sun pierces through a thick layer of smoke, left behind by massive rocket engines and localized damage to an auxiliary runway. Exhausted but highly focused radar operators take off their headsets as the tactical screens finally clear of all red hostile threats. Bathed in the soft golden light of the early morning sun, the Doha skyline stands tall, proud, and completely structurally sound. A weary F-15 Strike Eagle gracefully touches down on the runway at Udeid Air Base, safely returning in the morning light. Heat shimmers from the exhaust of the returning fighter jet as it taxis slowly past a long line of reinforced military hangars. Ground crews rush toward the parked fighter jet, immediately beginning the arduous process of inspecting and rearming the high-tech aircraft. Silhouetted against the bright morning sun, A pilot climbs down the ladder of the jet, bearing the sheer exhaustion of the night. Out in the desert, Patriot missile batteries stand completely still, with their empty launch tubes pointing silently at the clear blue sky. Over the Persian Gulf, the water is calm and shimmering under the dawn light, showing absolutely no signs of the night's fierce battle. Military personnel systematically secure a large piece of intercepted missile fuselage lying harmlessly, half buried in the desert sand. Aircraft carriers in the Gulf bustle with morning activity as fresh flight patrols prepare to launch into the now secure airspace. Warship radar dishes continue to spin methodically under a beautiful, peaceful morning sky, maintaining their unyielding digital overwatch. Empty, blackened air-to-air missile pylons on the wings of parked Rafale fighter jets tell the silent story of the nighttime engagements. The massive Udeid Air Base looks highly organized and heavily fortified in the daylight, completely unfazed by the nighttime barrage. Long lines of armored personnel carriers remain parked strategically along the coastal defense line to deter any secondary incursions. Massive desert command bunkers, surrounded by layers of defensive barricades, remain fully operational and heavily guarded from above. The morning sky remains crisscrossed with fading white vapor trails, a lingering and powerful testament to the massive air defense operation. A military boot steps onto the scorched, blackened sand where a massive piece of intercepted debris crashed to Earth hours earlier. Soldiers stand vigilant guard near a massive coastal defense radar installation, observing the peaceful and heavily patrolled ocean. A new pair of fighter jets launches into the morning sky with a deafening roar to maintain a continuous, heavily armed defensive patrol. Teams of engineers meticulously inspect the THAAD interceptor batteries under the bright sun, ensuring they are ready for another night. The Ras Laffan industrial complex functions normally, its massive chimneys venting clean white steam into the cool morning air. Isolated military outposts, dotted across the vast scale of the Qatari desert, remain on high alert, scanning the endless, sandy horizon. Mechanics carefully inspect the high-tech machinery of an F-15 engine intake inside a brightly lit and bustling maintenance hangar. A new shift of operators monitors clean green screens inside a command center bathed in natural light from reinforced blast windows. Military helicopters fly low over the desert dunes, scanning the vast landscape for any remaining unexploded wreckage from the night's intercepts. The Doha Corniche waterfront is beautifully illuminated by the sunrise, with military patrol boats visible guarding the distant calm harbor. Massive military cargo planes fly overhead, bringing fresh supplies and replacement interceptor missiles to the heavily defended air bases. Heat discoloration on the metal of a defense gun barrel shows the intense thermal stress of unleashing thousands of rounds overnight. An entire squadron of fighter jets sits parked in perfect symmetry on the sunlit tarmac, fully refueled and ready for immediate deployment. American and Qatari flags wave proudly together in the desert wind above a heavily fortified and highly successful command bunker. Military jeeps drive steady patrols along chain-link fences, topped with razor wire at the secure perimeters of the strategic air bases. Naval destroyers cut through calm, bright blue waters, their missile tubes securely closed and reloaded for the morning maritime patrol. Highly advanced military satellites in orbit slowly pan their solar panels toward the rising sun, continuously scanning for thermal blooms. From high altitude, the curvature of the Earth over the Middle East looks completely peaceful after a terrifying night of intense warfare. Long lines of military transport vehicles travel down desert highways, strategically relocating vital air defense assets to new, classified positions. Soldiers look through binoculars at the distant, shimmering modern skyline, knowing their efforts kept the city completely safe from destruction. A fighter jet breaks the sound barrier in the clear morning sky, leaving a perfectly circular white vapor cone behind its exhaust. Soldiers rest at a temporary desert camp, finding a brief moment of peace after surviving the massive and unprecedented overnight bombardment. Glowing digital displays in the jet cockpits officially confirm that the regional airspace is now completely clear of all hostile targets. The sun, glares brilliantly off the glass facades of Doha's tallest skyscrapers, serving as a powerful symbol of an impenetrable defense. Aerial drones circle a massive, scorched impact crater in the empty desert, showing the sheer destructive power that was successfully intercepted. Massive transport trucks carry fresh, fully loaded Patriot missile canisters to the defense batteries to immediately restore the defensive shield. Mechanics tighten heavy bolts on the landing gear of the F-15s, working tirelessly to keep the critical air superiority fleet operational. Heat waves distort the view of multiple aircraft taking off from the expansive military runway for extensive morning reconnaissance missions. Qatari military commanders walk purposefully through the bustling high-tech operations centers, analyzing the immense success of the defense network. Fleets of naval patrol boats move in perfect V formations across the sparkling waters of the Gulf, securing the maritime borders. Massive radar domes stand stark white against the flawless blue morning sky, their invisible waves scanning hundreds of miles outward. The peaceful desert perfectly meets the calm ocean, showing absolutely no physical signs of the chaotic aerial warfare that occurred hours before. Intricate pieces of charred drone wreckage lay buried halfway in the desert sand, their offensive capabilities completely and permanently neutralized. Heavily armed military drones take off from desert runways to provide relentless high-altitude overwatch of the now secure sovereign airspace. Fully rearmed and completely operational air defense batteries stand ready and incredibly vigilant in the rising morning desert heat. Allied fighter jets perform a triumphant whir, roaring low pass over a fortified desert base, signaling the ultimate victory of the defenders. Soldiers' faces reflect quiet relief and immense pride as they look up at the protective fighter jets circling confidently high above them. The bustling Doha city streets slowly come back to life, totally protected by the invisible and highly advanced military shield. Brave pilots walk together across the tarmac, their silhouetted figures backlit by the morning sun, after completing their historic mission. The Doha skyline stands completely intact and gleaming under the golden morning sun as the ultimate symbol of technological resilience.